Hey, how's it going, guys? And welcome back to Turtle Talk Tuesday. Tonight, we're going to be reviewing IDW's volumes 10 and 11. Or if you guys are keeping track at home and want to read the hardcover, it is the IDW Collection Volume 5. So, gotta love these IDW hardcovers. Yeah, April O'Neil. I only know why she's on the cover holding, like, this scene never happened. But anyway, Andy, as usual, ComicManAndy is here with me. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing better now I'm here, man. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great. I finally got a chance to read something, so I'm doing great. I feel like I haven't had a chance to read too much lately. So when you hit me up last night, we're like, are we actually doing the Turtle show? Like, yeah, I could read some Turtles. So, you know who else is hopefully reading some Turtles? The chat. So let's hop into the chat. Say hi to a couple guys here. We got Ruben Guzman, Cowabunga Man. You know he loves him some TMNT. Always happy to see Ruben in the chats. And we got Luis Ramirez, 504. What's going on, man? But Andy, I kind of actually messaged you on this one because the way this Volume 5 hardcover is structured, you don't get Volume 10 at first. You actually get a Turtles in Time miniseries. So when I hit you up like, Andy, we got to read Turtles in Time, usually we gloss over or skip over like these extra like fillers, annuals, miniseries, micro series, maxi series. But there was a particular issue in Turtles in Time. I'm like, I think we got to read this one. So you said if you get time, we got to read it. I think we actually both got time to read it in time for the show. So, Andy, I know you kind of said the first three issues are, but what were your initial thoughts on Turtles in Time before we really talk about, the big issue 4 here?
It was fun. I like Sophie Campbell. This must have been some of her early work.
Yep.
I like seeing some of her early stuff to kind of put in perspective her progression, where she's come from, where she is now. That first one is probably one of the more fun ones because you get Pepperoni in there too.
Yep, they get to meet Pepperoni.
Yes, and some good comedy, some good Turtles comedy and hilarity ensues without this. And then my exact words to you in the message when I got to issue 4 was, "Holy shit!" Because this is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I kind of think so, actually. I've never heard anyone talk about, but before we talk about 4, I want to give my quick thoughts. I thought it was a lot of fun when they met this character, Renette, and I kind of wanted to brief you on this character because I didn't know too much about it, but the more I read about Renette, the more super interested I got into this character. So Renette's first appearance is in TMNT number 8 from the original run. So when I started reading up and digging up on this character right here is allegedly the same character every time she meets an incarnation of the Turtles. So the Mirage Turtles here, they meet Renette. They also meet her in this. So that is the same character, apparently. So they've said each time Renette appears, it's the exact character. So you don't get like the IDW version of Renette or the Mirage version. She is the same character every time the Turtles meet her. So actually, it kind of encouraged me to go read the annual from 2014, which was in the previous hardcover volume. And it was all illustrated by Kevin Eastman. Basically, she needs help in her own time. I think it was like her brother or something. She's trying to help her family member. So she goes and recruits the Turtles. But she knows all the Turtles, obviously, because, like I said, she's met them before with even Cerberus. So she is familiar with who these Turtles are for the most part. But the IDW Turtles have no idea who Renette is. So when she goes back in time to recruit them, it's in the IDW universe this time. And they're all scratching their bald heads. Like, who is Renette? Why is she here? Of course, Mikey likes her because they're the same type of personality. She's just this goofball who's trying to do the right thing, obviously, like Michelangelo. So I definitely want to read more of this character because apparently, like, I think she appears on a couple TV shows even. And she's basically like the Doctor from Doctor Who. She's traversing time, alternate universes, trying to do the right thing, basically, and she's just a little off. So super interesting this character is to me after reading about it.
Yeah, is she from Dimension X?
I kind of got that vibe, but I'm not sure. Like I said, I need to read a little bit more. But the other thing you'll kind of notice about her is if you've seen that stinker of a movie, Turtles 3, she has the time scepter.
Yes.
So she does have that, and she actually, I did go back and flip this open. This is probably the first appearance of that scepter as well. So she does have that scepter in pretty much all of her appearances too. So I found that even more. And now I kind of want to watch Turtles 3, God help me. See if there's any Renette references in there. But yeah, like I said, issue 1 is just good fun. You get to meet Pepperoni for the first time. They don't get to quite meet him and keep him as a pet just yet, but at least you get that. Issue 2, it wasn't bad either. You get the feudal. This is where it felt like most closest to the movie. You actually get to see them in feudal Japan. Thank God they don't have that like goofy Walker character. I was waiting for that guy to pop up and make me mad, but luckily they get to meet, the past incarnation of Shredder. Actually, Leo goes after him, trying to kind of avoid the future that they know. But then, of course, I think it's Donatello is the one who's like, oh, no, that's not going to save us. It's going to eradicate all of our timeline, buddy, and everybody we know. So you better stop now. And somehow them doing that creates the distrust in Shredder that makes him want to kill the next person who stabs him in the back. And, of course, we know from the first run that that's going to be Hamato Yoshi. So it's like kind of like they set up their own fate, more or less.
Interestingly enough, there's a portion of that story where they're actually in Yoshi's household.
Yes.
With mom and dad in themselves in human form.
Yeah, and oddly enough, the only one who can speak Japanese is Michelangelo.
Right? Go figure.
Yeah, I guess he's like he's at nerd time, I guess. He just doesn't have a computer in the sewer, so he just learns languages. I figure it would have been Donatello, but I guess he knows computers, not other languages. Besides, computer language, obviously. But the third one was probably the weakest for me, although I really did enjoy the art in the third part of it. That's where you get the pirate level from the game, basically. And somehow, once again, they put Mikey over huge in these. Michelangelo somehow talks his way into becoming the captain of the pirate ship. I don't know how or why. And then, randomly, I think there's a descendant of Kate. I don't know if you caught on to this. I feel like there's a descendant of Casey Jones on the ship, because when they draw this character next to Donatello, that pretty much looks like the actor from the first movie, even in the same dress. But I think that's the only panel you see him in. So I thought that was kind of weird.
You see him in a couple other panels, but not his face. You get from profile shots or shots from the rear. And I would agree with that wholeheartedly, actually.
Yeah. And then you kind of get a little background on Burnout Island during all this. Basically, Krang is starting to set up his stuff, or I don't know if it's Krang or his descendant. Like I said, this is 1700s. I don't know how Krang ages, but basically there's an Altom on Burnout Island in pirate times, and somehow that causes a mutagen leak, and they kind of give you maybe what looks like a Leatherhead tease at the end of this thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
because they liberated that area, and the pirates weren't looting and pillaging. They didn't want to do that. So everything that they found there, including that ooze, he's like, dump it, get rid of it. It doesn't exist for us anymore. We're not about that. And lo and behold, that last page, that crocodile or alligator in the water and all that ooze, Leatherhead. Your mind goes right to Leatherhead.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's got to. So issue 4 is, I think, for us where it gets really interesting, because when you play the game, you got to have the future level. Of course, it's got to be in the future, the final issue. So the future for the Turtles, they finally get to eat pizza after all this time. They're just hungry. They want a slice. So they go to this joint called Sushi Pizza. That sounds like turtle heaven right here. But then you slowly find out, let me know if this sounds familiar or not. They find out that the world has more or less been taken by Krang and Shredder. They've split up the continents. So the Foot Clan is in charge of New York. They have won. And the more they go, they find out that the Foot has become so powerful, they run New York. There's only one turtle left, like I said, and it's because he feels guilty for the death of his brothers. Does that kind of sound familiar, Andy?
Oh, boy, does it ever.
It turns out the last Ronin, I guess, in this one was Donatello. So Donatello is your remaining survivor in this, and you get some and actually the other big piece of imagery is the 4 bandanas being laid out together. So if you guys remember the end of Last Ronin #1, which I guess it's the only Last Ronin we got, it's before Mikey was going to commit seppuku in that book. He laid out the 4 bandanas pretty much just like Donnie has them hanging on his wall here. So pretty much they're just gonna have to fight the Foot to try to seize control back of New York. And so far, just reading one issue of Last Ronin, it just feels like a backdoor pilot for Last Ronin, does it not?
Yeah, it really did. And I was trying to find something from earlier. One of the things pointed out, the Foot Clan controls all of the United States and South America, and Krang controls all of Europe.
Yes.
Didn't mean to parlay too far away from what you were talking about. It really does. I mean, this is like a knock on that Last Ronin door, and there was more. There was another piece in here that I'm going to try to find really quick while you continue. That was really kind of blew the doors open for me.
Yeah, and I just feel like, I don't know if it was Dan Duncan's art in this one, but I just feel like when I got to read Last Ronin, the art style and the older turtle was definitely very similar. I was kind of like the Omega sign on his glasses there, indicating that it's right there in between his glasses, that this is like the end all turtle right here. So obviously in Last Ronin, they made the turtle like a lot more mysterious, a lot more of a ninja type character, whereas Donatello, he just feels bad. He just looks like an old engineer, basically. And yeah, at the end of this, though, I do kind of like the little twist at the end here. The guy who's kind of in charge of the rebellion turns out to be this guy Woody, who was selling Michelangelo pizzas the whole time. So yeah, I know we're happy to see Woody back.
Yep.
Then, yeah, that's where the story ends with Donnie kind of taking his purple bandana back and looking at it. And then they segue to the turtles who got back to the present. And Donatello's kind of pondering, what this means for him. So if he's the last remaining turtle, and basically his future self told him the only reason he's alive is because, he's the one who gave up the fight against the Foot Clan, who his brothers are the ones who kept going and ultimately got killed. And then Donnie doesn't like that answer, obviously. He wants to be on par with his brothers. He wants to keep fighting. So, boy, was this by far the most interesting issue of this miniseries.
Well, yeah, and Donnie almost feels doomed now after seeing this, and now he almost feels like his future's cemented. But future Donnie, if you will, reassures him that this is only one possibility, one out, and that they can change that.
Yeah, and then definitely Donnie's the one who tries to at least like comfort himself in the middle of all this. But I think these last few pages really add into the story that we're going to read tonight for the 2 volumes. I mean, I think that just adds a lot to Donnie's arc here, where he's really going above and beyond to like figure out the Technodrome problem and keep the rest of the team and family focused. Because like going into volume 10, which I guess we can kind of start to talk about here, the big thing in volume 10 is Donnie's kind of going into business for himself here, because Splinter is overly concerned about the Foot Clan, because the Foot Clan, they have a bullseye right on the turtle family. They're going to do anything they can do to pretty much wipe the turtles off the face of New York here. So Splinter, trying to protect his family, wants to take the assault directly to the Foot Clan, but Donatello knows the Technodrome is coming and it's going to terraform the world. It's not just the family at this point that's in trouble. It's the entire world. The Technodrome comes and does what it's supposed to do. So Donatello kind of has to tell Splinter he's wrong. And instead, he's not this guy anymore who decided not to fight. He is the guy who's taking the reins and taking charge. So that's why I kind of at least wanted to get your attention on this, not only for the kind of the cool Last Ronin style twist, but I really think, if this reads as continuous as the hardcover promises, then that really adds a lot to Donnie's character going into these volumes.
It adds a tremendous amount. I understand completely on why they placed that where they did in that volume, that hardcover, because that rolls off the tongue, so to speak, very well into volume 10 and into volume 11.
Yeah, and speaking of characters who are having an arc here, we get Slash in this issue to kind of lead us off. And he, if you guys remember from the last trade, now he's got like sentient thoughts. He can speak. He's kind of like, Professor Hulk now, basically. Probably not as smart as Bruce Banner, but he's pretty sharp. He understands some of the techno lingo later down the line, but he's kind of torn a little bit too, because he does like the Turtles, but he is affiliated with Old Hob. So now I know, Andy, you had feelings about Smart Slash last time. After reading Slash here, what were your thoughts?
Oh, they did him justice. They really did. I was a little bit worried about giving him that second injection on how I kind of was worried that it was going to ruin his character. It was going to make him too smart for his own good. And what if he went back to being a full-time bad guy again and being a real menace for the Turtles? Then that's not what happened actually, and what we were given, I really enjoyed, and I think they really hit the nail on the head with this character.
Absolutely. So the filler storyline going on throughout most of this, and in my opinion, it seems filler to me. I'm still kind of glad they gave these characters time of day, but ultimately, in the grand scheme of these 2 volumes, these 2 characters do pretty much nothing. And that's April and Casey. You kind of get to see them hanging out safely at the second time around antique store with April's parents. So you kind of start to get to know April's dad a little bit because he's been cured by ooze. But yeah, I mean, not much to really chew on here. April is kind of displeased with Casey because he got beat up in the last run, and she's just like, I don't have any more ooze to heal people. You gotta stay healthy. Stop doing stupid stuff. So that was probably the best of April in the first couple panels, and then that's it. But what did you think about this stuff?
It had its place in time there, but if we could rewind for 30 seconds.
Sure.
Remember, your hardcover didn't include the
first that's right.
issue.
I missed an issue. Yeah.
This trade paperback actually had the last issue of your last hardcover.
Right. Yeah.
Starts off the trade paperback for some reason. I don't know why they did it like that. But that's the issue where you actually see Shredder die, at least we think.
Yeah.
The full-on bait and switch where he's actually back there dressed as a foot ninja and has a detonator in the helmet. And how he plays that off really quickly on that ship is really good because Krang's like, I'm starting with you. You're dying right now. He went, he went to try to build forces with Krang to go after. He's like, look, you're not going to be able to rule this world. The humans will never bow to you, and they're going to fight you to the nail the whole entire way. They need another human to rule over them. I'll let you own the world, but I'm going to rule the humans, and you're going to give us like some sort of a sanctuary, something like that to live at. And Krang was like not having any of that. So he kills what he thought was Shredder, and right behind him, he says, tricky ninja, remember? And then blows the detonator in his helmet. And that's when that ship begins to sink. And it's a full out battle with Karai and Bludgeon, right?
Yeah. You get Bludgeon, and then you have like that Falcon type character.
I think it's Karai or Korai.
Yeah, we'll see more of him as we go, but that was kind of like a cool new character they introduced here. But yeah, you just kind of see some of the other mutants that Shredder has on his team, and that he's going to need on his team a little bit further down the line here. But the other cool storyline going on is Old Hob, aka Old Man Snake here from Metal Gear Solid or Big Boss, in full Big Boss trench coat now. He's completed his Metal Gear Solid look. I absolutely love that. But Old Hob, he's bringing, and also I gotta mention this before we introduce this character. Is that a member berry spray painted in the background?
It sure looks like it, doesn't it?
It's like member Mondo Gecko, because we're bringing in Mondo Gecko. So you get introduced to the 2 newest members of Old Hob's team, like it's a wrestling Survivor Series team. Herman the Hermit Crab and Mondo Gecko. Go ahead, Andy.
That's my favorite part is they went to the pet store and bought them from the pet store. And at this point, they're introducing these guys, but where was my mind racing towards as we're introducing these 2 new characters? Where's Petey?
Where's Petey the parrot?
And sure enough, he was involved in this aspect. Oh
yeah.
Getting these 2 from the pet store. You've got a hermit crab and a gecko that are now part of your mutant army.
I'm slowly really loving Herman the Hermit Crab. He might be my new favorite character. It's like, imagine Sergeant Rock.
Yeah.
As a crab, as a dumpster.
About
full of weapons.
80 years old.
Yeah.
With that handlebar mustache, that gray handlebar mustache kind of going, and that British accent kind of aspect.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I'd give the British accent.
And
man.
How do you not? I don't know about everybody else reading this run or anybody else that it's a Turtles fan. How do you not love these 2 characters coming in? And they just have comedy written all around them, adding to that aspect of, the pacing's been really good. The action's been really good. They've done a really good job delivering very serious tones and very difficult times for the Turtles and the family. And I think this is the perfect way to break it up, is with some of these characters and having some comedy elements to them, like Petey. How do you not love Petey?
I don't know. Petey does something pretty bad here, though. There's like, hey, Pete, you're being annoying. Go recruit something. And he's like, oh, okay, boss. And then he goes, you see him talk about this mutant army. You don't know who he's talking to yet. And then you turn the page, and it's Bebop and Rocksteady. Holy crap. Bebop and Rocksteady just got told the entire plan of this trade. And it's not going to end well for people here. So Bebop and Rocksteady, are you happy to see them back?
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. Unfortunately, we get them back in a way where Petey's doing his best to try to help out his family, and yet he's leading them right into a trap, so to speak. But Bebop and Rocksteady not being quite like the sentient beings that Slash is now at this point, just kind of going with it. They know well enough not to tell their own boss that if things go wrong, this never happened. But they're not quite smart enough to do a full foolproof plan, right?
Absolutely.
And then I just love they smashing an ATM for breakfast money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're causing all kinds of chaos here. And then you see in the next issue, you got Alopex back in New York. She's keeping a tail on Bebop and Rocksteady, just seeing what's going on there. Some fun filler here. You see Michelangelo making breakfast for the Turtles, and this starts our trend of burnt toast for some reason. They burn a lot of toast in this volume.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure why there's the tie there with the burnt toast, but that also comes to play with April's dad repairing a toaster in a few pages as well.
Yeah, and then I like even Splinter can't be nice about the burnt toast. He says he's retreating. I don't even know. It was just like slop on a plate, like eggs with shells in it and burnt toast. Michelangelo, he loves to eat. He just doesn't know how to make food himself because he's a kid. So, but it goes back to being pretty serious pretty quick. You go back to Harold and Angel in the lab, and Trenchcoat Donatello. He's there trying to take the reins on his own storyline. He's recruited Fugitoid to help him over in Dimension X, be the manipulator over there, while he be's the manipulator on this side. He recruits Metalhead. He messes with Metalhead's machinery and is able to kind of use him as his own robot now, basically, so he can control where he goes, what he says, and everything. And like I said, there's more burnt toast. And then this is where you kind of get to see this kind of random alliance form between Alopex and Angel that pretty much holds up the next two volumes.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense where she's called home, but she wasn't called home to the Turtles. She was called home to the Foot Clan, but she doesn't land in the Foot Clan. She lands in Angel's lap here. Kind of a fitting duo.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm kind of glad, they wanted to use these characters, and they really didn't have a lot to do before this, but at least you put them together, it gives them something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually a more interesting storyline than the April Casey stuff going on. But I have a feeling like after this storyline's up, they'll be back wrapped in completely into it. So
the April Casey stuff, though, I'm kind of wondering, there's a level of aggression we're seeing from her dad that I wasn't anticipating.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I don't know if I was reading too much into that, or you saw that too.
I saw that as well. And, we're talking somebody who's a scientist, and he's basically losing his sheet over a coffee pot not working, and it was a simple fuse needing to be readjusted that Casey handled for April's dad. But this level of aggression isn't something we've seen in his character at all before.
Right.
But now with the ooze and him coming back from his stroke, I wonder if we're seeing a very slow transition.
Yeah, I think you might absolutely be right. I kind of read that a little bit, but I'm just like, we'll see. But yeah, you made a good point there. If a scientist can't make coffee and can't make toast, like, what can he do? So I think eventually he's going to try to go back to work and not be able to do anything. And then he's just going to have a downward spiral of depression and anger after that.
I think everything that's wrong with the world, with the Turtles world right now, April has this nice little slice of pie of a perfect home world at the moment with her mom and the secondhand gift shop, or the second time around antique shop, and her own little slice of the pie, her own little slice of the world is going very well right now. And I think we're being set up here a little bit. I think things are going to do a 180 for April and her family here going forward at some point, I think.
Yeah, so going back to old Hobbs crew, you get, hey, everyone over here, it's me, Pete, and guess what? I'm bringing the bad guys with me on accident. So I love he marches in like a jackass in these like weird purple gym shorts. Absolutely. MVP of the story. Him and Herman the Hermit Crab. My God. And listen, to give those two a story together, please.
Yeah.
But he brings in Bebop and Rocksteady, and of course, the natural chaos ensues. Actually, Old Hob tries to barter with him at first, like, hey, we're all mutants here. Like, let's fight the humans. And Bebop and I think it's Rocksteady's like, hey, dude, we were originally human and now we're mutants. And then Old Hob just starts shooting at him. Like, he's like, oh, you're half human. Too bad. You're not in. Boy, was that a mistake. So, yeah, a lot of action ensues here. And then you kind of even get like the chapter break of Donatello actually starting his work on Metalhead. And then it actually goes in the next issue and they're still fighting.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, wow, they were really putting over Bebop and Rocksteady here to the point where, like, you know, Slash like whipped that ass previously, but now he's having trouble fighting them as well.
Yes. But this is where that pacing, they give you that little bump in the pacing where they start to pick it up a little bit but they use enough dialogue here to keep you from moving too fast through the book, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So you get to enjoy this mega fight scene with my favorite characters going on right now: Bebop, Rocksteady, Slash, the Turtles, and the Hermit the Hermit Crab. And then Mondo even plays a pretty decent role.
Oh, yeah, he plays a major role here.
Without getting too much further forward, I didn't mean to jump ahead of you.
Oh, no, absolutely. I do want to say hi to a couple people here. We had a Poor Man's Comics in early. It says Turtle Power and Comic Mag Musings. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining us tonight. But yeah, like Mondo Gecko, like you said, he's him and Splinter. I like the two polar opposites have to tag team up, and that's what it takes to finally bring down Bebop and Rocksteady. Actually, that technically didn't even work either. It subdued them for a minute. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the amount of manpower or mutant power it took to bring down Bebop and Rocksteady finally. Like, it took Mondo Gecko pretty much electrocuting the heck out of them. And then eventually Herman the Hermit Crab blows up a building and drops it on him. And it still doesn't kill him.
No, it doesn't. But it's just the dumpster for a shell kills me, man. And it's loaded with rockets and missiles. And the building was already listed as unfit for anybody being there because it was unsafe. So they just knock it down on top of them. And as we saw the last trade paperback 9, similar situation in the music hall where they dropped a chunk of that music hall on top of them and they climbed back out.
That's right. Yeah. So I believe and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the break in between trades comes with Metalhead, played by Donatello, basically going right to Shredder's front door in front of all of the Foot Clan and basically trying to make a deal with the Foot Clan to go fight Krang. And that's where, I'm assuming that's where the trade leads off.
Yep. There's that last page. It just says epilogue. And
that's it.
What is it you seek? And there's Metalhead telling him part of the plan. And then it cuts to the art gallery stuff at the end of the trade.
So if you were continuing to read the hardcover, this is where you get TMNT Ghostbusters. It is actually fully integrated into this hardcover, and I skipped the heck out of it. Like, if you guys saw my October Reads feature, I'll probably reread it at some point and change my mind, but I read that first issue. I think it was one of my like lowest rated October reads that I did. I just did not care for it when I read it at the time.
It was the lowest rated one.
Yeah. I don't remember what I gave it, but it was pretty low. But I was just like, but the funny thing is, I didn't realize it when I read it for October Reads, but they wrapped it into the IDW continuity. They name drop it later, that it actually, Harold acknowledges that that's an event that happened. So it wasn't just a random crossover. It actually happened in this Turtle continuity, and that's just mind-blowing to me.
Man, think of all the things that Slimer could do if he was wrapped further into the continuity.
Yeah, put him in that team with Hob and all those weirdos. That would be great.
Well, everything he touched would turn into a mutant for their army.
That's true. I guess so, yeah. He's made of literal ooze.
Potentially.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. All right, so we get into the Attack on Technodrome 4-part series here. So this is issue 41 through 44. And if you guys are collectors and stuff out there, Turtles number 44, that's what kept lingering in my mind, because I knew what was going to happen at the end of 44. And just I knew this story was not going to end well for a certain turtle, but we'll get to that here in a few. So the story opens with a lingering Technodrome. It has been updated, so it doesn't have like this like bludgeoning eye on the top. It still has like a spear that kind of resembles an eye, but it's not just an eye like the old toy or what was on the TV show. So thought that would have been a fun little touch, but hey, it looks close enough to the Technodrome. And this is where you get some more Baxter Stockman. He's back in the story. He kind of took the last trade off, but you get a full Baxter Stockman arc here to where him and Fugitoid are kind of working together, but and of course he's going to have a sudden but inevitable betrayal a little bit later down the line. So Donnie helps borrow that deal with toys from Harold, all that stuff. So Andy, what did you think of the Technodrome introduction here?
We finally, I mean, this has been teased for 4 or 5 trade paperbacks, basically, like a volume and a half of your hardcovers. And we finally get to see it in full detail on Burrow Island. And it's just as threatening and just as ominous as they've described. This thing is massive. This thing is bigger than any building they have out there, bigger than any skyscraper. And they really did it justice. Was it Duncan on the art at the end of this?
Yeah, I think Dan Duncan was on this
Dan
one.
Duncan did a fantastic job with it. And I really love Dan Duncan's Krang, how creepy it looks. I really appreciated the Baxter Stockman storyline in this. There is something I want to bring attention to with his story arc when we get further on into this trade. But yeah, you got Fugitoid there on Burrow Island as well. And they actually put together some pretty crazy plans between everybody.
Yeah, and a lot of this first issue is just a lot of the characters getting ready for the next issue. There's not a lot of actual action here, besides, the practicing, of course. So, like, the old Hob, Turtle team, Splinter Clan team, whatever you want to call them, it just shows them, like, basically practicing for their big break-in into, Shredder and the Foot Clan's hideout. You get April and Casey. They're getting along well. They share a kiss, but at the same time, after a while, you see him redon the mask. So he's going to make April mad down the line. She didn't want him fighting anymore, and he's getting ready to go fight. And I think it was also on the whim of her dad, who was just like, hey, you want to work security for the store? Yeah. And obviously, it's not going to lead to good stuff for April and Casey down the line. You got Donnie and Harold. They're testing out their portal. Donnie gets to take a quick trip to Paris. He brings back a little souvenir. The Foot Clan, they're getting ready for their raid on Burnout Island. And then it ends with basically Krang. It kind of looks like he's in Dimension X at first, but he's still really on Burnout Island. And that's just because the effects of the Technodrome are getting ready to go live tomorrow. So any other notes from 41 that I glossed over that you wanted to cover?
No, it was just interesting, though, that they actually terraformed a portion of Burnout Island. And I always butcher the pronunciation of that. But then you actually see him happy for the first time.
Yeah.
Like truly happy. It's just like home, he says. And talks about how his father, if he was alive and getting to see what his son accomplished. And I'm like, well, this is really, it adds a lot of depth to Krang, actually, this two-page section, because it's not just about domination anymore. He's actually trying to recreate his home world.
Absolutely. So going into part 2 of it, you get the turtle. You find out the 3 turtle brothers are kind of getting in on this Donnie plan now. So you find out in a little while that basically Leonardo, when you saw him come back and, he was attacked by the hermit crab and Mondo Gecko, he actually did get a chance to meet with Donatello. And that's where they set up this plan that is now being executed in the next issue, where the turtles, they're going to separate themselves from old Hobbs' group, while at least Splinter will stay with them to make sure they don't do any foul play. And the turtles, they're going to go help Donnie now, basically. And like Leo and Donnie have came up with this plan. that does involve Fugitoid, and now they've roped in even Baxter Stockman, which, of course, like I said, it leads to Baxter Stockman just being a jerk. He immediately rats out Fugitoid the Krang, which I don't even know who's playing. There's so many random plans and schemes going on. Somehow Baxter Stockman uses his intellect to get the upper hand here when he's almost kind of like a tertiary character. He just like shoehorns himself in and is slowly taking control of everything. So what did you think of Baxter at this point?
I'm actually glad they utilized him a little bit more instead of being a tertiary character, because he plays a very vital role in the first handful of volumes, and then we don't hear a lot from him for quite a long while. So it's nice to have him back, but just as it's nice to have him back, they quickly remind you that he's not a nice person.
Absolutely.
It's quickly a double agent. He's out for himself. He's done the double agent aspect, gone back and forth and begged with Crane, like, I have information that you want, but I'll only trade it for you if you provide me a sanctuary to live on this world that you're going to create after this. Like, he's out for himself wholeheartedly, and they're not shy about showing that in this. And he's a pretty crappy person, but glad they've utilized him more, and adds another layer, another dimension, or another aspect of a different type of character that we don't see. He fills that role, is what I'm saying, as the kind of bad guy who's not quite the it escapes me of the terminology at the moment, but he's not quite the focal point as being the bad guy that they're facing, but he's just as evil and just as kind of nasty.
Sure. No, absolutely. Like, eventually he's going to make that one big power play, but he's just going to lurk in the shadows until then.
Right. He's not the main antagonist, is what I'm saying. That's what I meant to say.
Absolutely.
He fills that part.
So this is where they start using that teleportal that Harold has. Like the Turtles, they're going to teleport to their spot on Burnout. And then the entire Foot Clan show up at Harold's door. Well, actually, it's not even really Harold's door. It's where Donatello's kind of hiding out, and Harold is listening over a TV screen, basically, for his own safety, obviously. But Shredder, he appreciates the deal, but he's still leaving Bebop and Rocksteady with Donatello, saying if the plan goes south, he's going to kill Donatello.
Yeah.
So obviously a pretty bad omen right there. And then did this Professor Miller storyline do anything for you, Andy?
No, not really. I wonder if it was just a way to shoehorn April in there a little bit more. They had talked about this professor. He played some sort of a role in the Foot Clan or with the Foot Clan, or he's attached with some sort of informational aspect where he's providing them something and he doesn't want to be a part of it, but now he's stuck. Now he's writing checks. His mind and body doesn't want to cash, but he has no way out. And his way out is going to be that he's going to help April and the Turtles.
Yeah. So we'll see if this character pans out at all. But yeah, I kind of just ended up glossing over this whole part of the story just because I was just like I said, April probably had the weakest storyline in this whole thing. But let me say a special shout out, Fish Tropic, man. What is going on? My first subscriber ever, Fish Tropic, hanging out in the chat, and I know he likes him some turtle power as well. But yeah, we finally get, once again, Big Boss. He's back, Old Hob. They're getting ready to do their counterattack on the Foot Clan as well. And yeah, you probably don't want to be attacking the Foot Clan when they're holding your son hostage. Just saying, it's probably not a good thing. They probably should have told Splinter a little bit more. And then they kind of allude to the time they had with Rat King that they don't remember. And I barely remember either. That whole Rat King stuff was so weird. So can't wait to see more Rat King, though. And that's where, because Baxter ratted out the Foot Clan coming, as soon as the Foot Clan gets there, it is just all-out chaos. You get pretty much right off the bat just Krang versus Shredder, and all of your other Foot characters, all your other Ultron characters, they're all just, it's just a battle royale at this point, basically, going into issue 43. So going into that 43rd issue, that's where you get the Turtles. They're sneaking around the island, once again, doing their own plan. And you get to see Shredder versus Krang. So did you like this battle?
Oh, I did. And it's that old adage of never bring a knife to a gunfight. And that's essentially, I think Krang even says that at one point.
Oh, yeah.
And man, Shredder puts up one hell of a good fight. And this was pacing done well again. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Adding some fast pacing, some speed to it, but they control you a little bit better with the dialogue, and they're having you pause where they want you to pause a little bit, especially the axe strike that Shredder does against Krang.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's done in for, but then, he's got that armored glass and the axe just sticks right out the front of him. And Shredder they don't pull any punches against Shredder, and they don't cut him any breaks at all.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, he actually gets kind of messed up in this one. It kind of reminds me of Wolverine at the end of Days of Future Past, that movie where basically like Mystique has to go and haul him out of the water. There's a scene like that later, pretty much. But yeah, you get Fugitoid and Baxter. They're pretty much been locked up, but Baxter still has the upper hand because he's got the Mousers on his side. He uses that to pretty much he uses Fugitoid first to get out of the cage, and then he unleashes the Mousers to subdue Fugitoid and anybody else who's opposing him at that point. And then you have Old Hob attacking the rest of the foot, which pretty much at this point it's Karai and the Purple Dragons and Casey's dad. It's pretty much all that's left of the foot that's not on this island attacking. And you actually have to see Splinter save Mondo Gecko from Karai. That was kind of a cool scene there. And then Old Hob gets him some more ooze out of the deal. So who knows what goofy characters we're going to see next. But yeah, somehow this Old Hob storyline has turned into one of my favorite things about this book.
I think you're right. And I've heard some people that they felt like it was a bit of a detractor going on. This whole IDW run of Turtles was just like a new mutant after a new mutant after a new mutant. And it's kind of become cliche with the series. But I'm with you, Carson. I feel like that's my favorite part, and that's one of the best parts of the Turtles series is you get your Turtles, you get the family, you get your main antagonists, but then you get a lot of cool characters along the way. And if you're reading it like I'm reading it for the first time and you're not spoiled or you've forgotten everything you've heard in the past, it reads very well, and it's a lot of fun. Looking forward to especially Petey, man. I mean, that's an exciting tertiary character to see every time he comes in. And Mondo Gecko and Hermit the Crab now.
But yeah, this one ends with, Baxter, he's trying to control the Technodrome for himself, even though it's still going to cost, he's going to keep it from terraforming, but it's still going to cost thousands of lives, which obviously Fugitoid does not want him to do, nor does the Turtles. Turtles are going to break out Fugitoid, so they're involved in the battle with the Mousers. And then Krang actually gets up in time as well to activate the Technodrome from Baxter Stockman, and pretty much the foot just got their ass handed to them in this battle.
Yeah.
But Shredder still gets the call, even though he's on the ground. He still tells Bebop and Rocksteady going into the final issue here, kill the Tuttle.
Yeah, that was it's Bebop and Rocksteady, right? Special mission. They could just sit there and burn toast and burn pizzas as far as we know for special mission. It would be hilarious. The unfortunate side of things is their special mission takes a very serious turn here, and that's where I think it does.
Yeah, you think if they're that overpowered in the previous run that Shredder would have took these two characters of the island with them. But hey, it definitely got a lot darker because of the storyline, for sure. So we get to the final issue. They're trying to help Fugitoid because Fugitoid's pretty much the only one who can stop the Technodrome from activating at this point. And you get to see this cool attack from Krang where apparently his suit's just filled with missiles too. So that's pretty awesome. And then you have to see Donnie and Metalhead. And actually, I think at this point, I think it's Harold controlling Metalhead, trying to fight Bebop and Rocksteady, but he doesn't last long. He gets a Triple H sledgehammer to the dome, gets his arm ripped off, gets thrown through a door, and that's where it really takes a serious turn. I don't think we've seen a battle close to this, where you get to see I think really once they throw a door at Donatello, then smash a keyboard across his face, just holy crap! You haven't seen this level of brutality in this book.
Yeah, they get pretty brutal with Donatello, and it's a progressive brutality leading up to this next part.
Yep, and then unfortunately, he eats a Rocksteady sledgehammer, and they're talking about how gross their work is now. And all that's left is a dead Donatello, and Harold, as Metalhead, could barely grasp what's going on. So a very tragic panel here that like, 44 issues into this run, I can't think of anything that comes close to this scene.
Yeah, he doesn't just eat the sledgehammer; it breaks him in half.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm
that was
assuming it shattered his shell. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the hair-raising comments made in this was that did you expect it to look like that under there? And it's like,
yeah, exactly.
Obviously they can see straight through and see his innards and everything, and that just didn't sit well with me. That was hair-raising. That was pretty uncomfortable.
Definitely. But let's get to the chat real quick because we got Two Brothers Comics hopping in. I know these guys love them some TMNT. So shout out to Two Brothers Comics. Actually, Dustin put out a video today on some Turtles keys that not a lot of people know about. So that was a pretty cool video I watched this afternoon while taking a break in between reading some Turtles. So always shout out to Two Brothers, some Turtle love thrown their way for sure. But going back to what's going on here, the Turtles, they're still trying to get basically, they're just playing Protect Fugitoid at this point from Krang. And meanwhile, you've got Karai versus Splinter, which is another good battle unto itself. But luckily, that's when Alopex and Angel show up to kind of help them out going on that. So there's just battle after battle. There's basically like 3 to 4 huge battles going on here, even though the Foot Clan pretty much have been taken out at this point. And that's where the terraforming of the island begins, and they just annihilate the Foot Clan here, basically. And for some reason, we're probably going to find out in the next volume, these little robot fly things take Shredder off of the island just in time. So now Baxter Stockman appears to have control of the Shredder.
Yep. So interesting point here that I want to make about this is the very end of the first issue of Volume 10 has Karai carrying Shredder to safety in a similar fashion, flying him off the boat and saving him. And it's almost eerily similar that Baxter saves him in a very similar way for his own devices. Yeah. And your new partner, that's who.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see what Baxter's going to want from Shredder, basically, because Shredder is a pretty good manipulator as well. He just got one-upped here because I don't think they really counted on Baxter and Fugitoid telling Krang what was going to happen.
Well, and Shredder also counted on the Turtles and everybody fighting alongside them against Krang, if I remember correctly. Because that was the double agent aspect that Donatello played, where they were teaming up with Shredder to end Krang so that they could get back to their own feuds and keep the world safe.
Absolutely. So ultimately, the Turtles do come together and defeat Krang, though, allowing Fugitoid to deactivate the Technodrome. And that's when he ports the Turtles off of Burnow Island for their protection, gets the rest of, Dimension X, basically gives them a home, more or less. So, and then you get the tragic reality, though, that once they get back and get teleported back to, where they're going, Splinter's already there, Alopex and Angel. They find Donatello's dead body and the remnants of Bebop and Rocksteady. So what'd you think of the closing panel here, Andy?
It was pretty interesting. And we saw a couple of the characters from Dimension X from Volume 4 or Volume 5.
Yep.
With those elf-looking ears. They're back welcoming Fugitoid home, like you said. And they've delivered Krang to be judged.
Yeah.
I mean, and it seemed like a very good closing. Now, this isn't the last we're going to see a Krang, I bet.
I believe there's something called the Trial of Krang around issues 71 through 75, I think.
But this seemed like a very fitting way to end it so that those people on Dimension X can get some, not clarity, but they can get some closure, putting Krang up for trial, and the Turtles start to get some closure, but we'll see what happens because it kind of leaves this on a pretty dramatic cliffhanger for us.
Absolutely. We got Count Von Strange in the chat. What is going on, Count? He's asking which issue this is. So this ends with issue number 44. 44 is the untimely death of, spoilers, I guess, if you're just joining us, Donatello. But yeah, Donatello dies at the end of this hardcover volume. So yeah, all in all, you get a ton of story development in this. You get obviously that whole thing with Turtles in Time and that crazy Last Ronin like story that ended in, that added that wrinkle into Donatello's character. You get introduced to Mondo Gecko and our new favorite crab character, who is a dumpster. And then you get, I kind of almost, I wonder if the fall of the Foot, I wonder how much of the Foot Clan was actually on that island when it started to terraform that just got wiped out. So I feel like the Foot Clan took a huge hit here. Obviously, Shredder's been captured by Baxter Stockman. Krang is captured by Fugitoid now and his people. So I'm really curious to see. Obviously, they're gonna kind of, they're gonna grieve for Donatello, but I'm curious to see where it's gonna go going into like the issue 50s.
I know, right? Because all of the main antagonists are subdued. So
Absolutely.
where are we going from here? Now, obviously, this seems like it's going to be an arc. The next arc is going to be one of mourning, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, even his staff is broken in half on that last page.
Mm-hmm.
So if there were any doubts or questions as to whether or not he's going to make it, they leave subtle hints there, leading the reader to believe that he's not going to make it.
Yeah. So definitely they're getting ready to go into something big here. But yeah, I think you still got to see, Bebop and Rocksteady are going to pay for what they've done as well. Obviously, I think that's probably going to be the biggest storyline going forward in the next trade. And ultimately, I think there's something pretty big that's going to happen to Shredder pretty soon. And I'm curious to see how all that turns out. So
yeah, this is probably one of the harder endings to just let sit without
exactly
the next book and reading. My problem is if I grab and start reading now, it could be a couple of weeks before we get back to this, and then I'm going to need to reread it again anyways. So I'll just kind of sit on this and wait.
Yep. And then that's what I was going to say. We'll probably just revisit this again in the early January. So yeah, I definitely want to do the next hardcover, the two trades, beginning of January, and somewhere around the end of January, around, let's see, what is it, the 29th, Andy? January 29th now, Last Ronin issue 2 is going to come out, or was it the 27th?
Unfortunately, yeah, we just caught wind, I think, yesterday. It's January 27th, the last week in January that Ronin number 2 has been pushed to.
So we may have to do a Thirtle Thursday on the 28th or something and just talk about the Last Ronin book 2.
Yeah,
we've never had a chance to do like the big get-together of the Last Ronin and have a big community discussion about it. I was kind of wanting to do it next week, but then the book got pushed even further. So, yeah, maybe we can just talk about it later in the month. Who knows?
Well, I mean, you could still do a revisit recap with a number of community members.
Yeah.
That would definitely help fill a void in content for Turtle fans that want to talk about the Last Ronin. We now have an extra 5-6 weeks to wait. Coming out tomorrow is the second print of issue number 1, cover A. That comes out tomorrow. Also, what's really funny is Dustin did a segment on this. Dustin with Two Brothers Comics did an amazing segment on this. Is the retailer thank you variant is dropping tomorrow, which is hilarious because that's the thank you variant. That's the thank you variant that they did for retailers to say, hey, sorry for all the muck-ups with cover A and all the delays, but the thank you variant also got massively delayed, and it's really just now dropping tomorrow. So there's that, which is actually kind of hilarious.
Jeez. Yeah, that's I haven't even seen. I'll have to look up that cover at some point, or I guess I can watch Dustin's video for sure.
I'm not going to spoil it for you. Check out Dustin's video and look up the cover online, but it's got some pretty epic, like ruby looking foil aspects to it.
Oh man, see, now I want that cover, and it probably won't be able to be had. But yeah, I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this show up. Andy, where can people find you?
Ooh, you guys can find me here on Turtle Tuesdays on the C-Woodard 19 channel. You guys can find me on Monday nights Modern Men on the Comic Core every week where we're reading some fantastic modern age comic books. You guys can find me tomorrow night on Wednesday, the greatest comic book show ever on the Comic Core. And I might be dropping in for The Boy Who Had 7. He's got a special coming up tomorrow night. And we're interested in finding out what more information is coming to light for that. You guys can find me on my own channel. I took a couple of week break through the holiday and through some other things with my family, and looking forward to the new comic books dropping tomorrow. So I'll be hopefully dropping an episode sometime tomorrow night, later in the evening for New Comic Book Day.
Yeah, and then you guys can always find me here, of course, on the C-Woodard 19 channel. Search the same term on Instagram, Twitter, PS5, Xbox. I still need to turn on my consoles so I can add Andy's friend request that he told me about today. Then Comics of the Atom, I'll have to link down below for that, I believe. I think Mike and I are going to probably try to record this Friday. We're going to dig into Monstrous. So we've read issue 1 and reviewed that already, and that was a juggernaut of a book into itself. So we're just going to keep going with issue 2 as far as we read, and then go from there. And of course, we got the fun stuff over on the Comic Core side. Last night we reviewed Daredevil Guardian Devil from Kevin Smith. We're going to do a video game Modern Men special next week, so it's not really Modern Men, it's video game men basically. And then the following week we'll be reading Fantastic Four Unthinkable, Mark Waid, Mike Wieringo, and I'm sure we'll have some sort of best of 2020 topic to go along with that. And Great Legend says he wants a seat on that panel to talk about some Fantastic Four, so definitely looking forward to that. But until next time, guys, Cowabunga!